Okay, so I did a video on the anatomy of a Fender no-load tone pot, and then all of these things that I do are basically on the fly, unscripted, unrehearsed, and so every time I do one of these I end up looking at it and thinking of other things that I want to follow up with. So I have a couple of these. The one that I started with was this one, and this is it says on the back of the pot, it looks like the date code is an 09, so I'm assuming that's a 2009 pot. So I think this is the newest of the group, and this was the one that I did the first video with. And what you can see here is the beginning, on the beginning of the, and I'm also looking into a monitor that's reversed, so I'm going to be fumbling around here, but at the beginning of the pot there's a silver, just a conductive strip. There's no carbon there, there's no resistance to that. The black part is where the carbon resistive strip actually begins and wraps around. And then there's this silver section over here is another just conductive silver strip. So there's no, the actual pot ends right here. So there's a little bit of travel at the end of this no-load pot where the resistance doesn't change, it stays at the max. And then that silver strip ends, and this is just plastic here connected to the terminal. So the terminal is essentially connected to nothing, and it never would be. If you, as you roll the wiper around, as it hits the end here, there's nothing to connect it to that terminal. So if this were assembled and you put a meter on this terminal, you would never connect the wiper to that terminal. But what I found was I had some older pots, and this one, it's hard to tell because there's solder on there, but I think this is a 2000 pot. This is a little different. This one here, it's actually pretty easy to see. This just has a carbon strip that goes all the way around, and then there's a section of it that's been removed right here. So when the wiper gets around to the end, as it travels around to the maximum point of resistance, they've actually scraped this off, removed that section, and there's nothing there. But there is a little bit on the other side of the opening. Why isn't that focusing? So when you turn the pot all the way clockwise and it locks in the detent, the fingers of that wiper actually will make contact with that little piece of resistive strip there and make connection to this terminal. So when you go all the way clockwise, the wiper terminal in the center actually does have zero continuity, 0 ohm continuity to that third terminal, so that you could use that for a couple of things if you wanted to. Now what I also have is a much older pot. This is out of a 98 Fender Tele. The pot has a 97 date code on it. This almost looks handmade, other than it's obviously a real no-load because it's got the dimple in the back. It's got the dimple in the back of the case, if it would focus on that. And it's a flat back case, unlike a standard CTS pot would have. But when you look at the resistive strip, this section that's been removed, as I fumble around trying to do this section that's been removed is very hard to see on camera, and it almost looks like something somebody did manually with an X-Acto knife. So I don't know if these were early models, and you can see that the resistive strip does the same. It does the same sort of thing. When the wiper gets past that, it can make contact here and have continuity to that third terminal. So when you go all the way clockwise and it locks in the detent, the center wiper actually will connect to that outside. So it seems like on the older no-load pots, when you went fully clockwise, you had continuity to this third terminal. And on the newer ones, they've modified that strip to the point where that is now never going to make contact, and that third terminal is never going to connect anything. It's basically just a dummy terminal at that point.